Bananas. We all eat them. Such great packaging. And they make you think of things that are wholesome and fun. Like this. And this. And who could ever forget this?
I'm Chiquita Banana, and I've come to say bananas have to ripen in a certain way. And when they're
But what about this? 9/11? What? This headline caught our attention. Chiquita is blocking a 9/11 victims bill. The bill would make it easier for U.S. terror victims, like the victims of 9/11, to sue anyone that funds terrorism. In the last few years, Chiquita has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars lobbying against the bill. I'm confused. Does Chiquita have something against justice for 9/11 victims? Turns out, it's not about the victims from here, but about the victims of terror here, in Colombia, and the role the company played in the country's decades-long civil war.
Chiquita was feeding resources into the war.
Michael Evans is a researcher at the National Security Archive, a D.C. nonprofit that obtains declassified government documents under the Freedom of Information Act. It's a treasure trove of scandals and secrets, buried in dusty boxes.
In 2007, we all learned for the first time that Chiquita had been for years making payments to the AUC, the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, which was an officially recognized terrorist group by the United States.
For 7 years, the company paid this violent right-wing militia more than $1.7 million, money the groups used to buy weapons, traffic drugs, and kill lots of people. The AUC even used a Chiquita-owned port to smuggle more than 3,000 AK-47s. And for years before that, Chiquita paid off leftist guerrillas in the region. Who knew Sweet Miss Chiquita was financing death squads in Colombia? I decided to see if people know about this. But how should I approach them? My plan? To go undercover. I hope my fruit doesn't fall off.
Chiquita.
That's right, Chiquita.
Chiquita bananas, and I like to say.
Did you know that Chiquita was paying terrorist groups in Colombia, where the groups killed thousands of people?
Really? I didn't know that.
To be honest with you, I did not know.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
That's serious?
Yeah.
That is.
This
they
is
supported terrorists?
dead serious, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They admitted to it.
It's terrible, horrible. But it's hard to take you serious with that plate on your head of fruits.
That an American banana company would fund terrorists seems hard to believe, but the destruction the groups left behind is no joke.
These are very significant, violent terrorist groups. Thousands of killings, thousands of displacements over decades.
In a war to destroy any and all left-wing guerrillas, the AUC murdered more than 4,000 people in the banana region alone, including small farmers and union leaders whose bodies have been found in mass graves. One paramilitary commander even testified that Chiquita and another company would hand over names of people they considered to be so-called security problems. I emailed Chiquita about that, but never got an answer. But they were really friendly when I called them on the phone. They said they actually support the 9/11 victims bill, but they worry their payments to terrorists in Colombia could open them up to lawsuits. They wouldn't talk to me on camera, so I found this old tape from 2007 where they say the same thing they told me, that they were the victims here, victims of extortion.
The payments made by the company were always motivated by our good faith concern for the safety of our employees.
Michael Evans says it wasn't extortion, but that Chiquita was actually doing business with the terrorists. Just look at the company's documents he showed us.
You know, if Chiquita is purely being extorted by these groups, then they won't get anything in return. We have documents that talk about the paramilitaries giving them intelligence, support, information on guerrilla movements, and providing security at some of the farms. You know, they specifically say they're providing security here, but not here.
And if you read the documents, it's clear they didn't want anyone to know.
Throughout the document, they've crossed out transactions and said payments.
But you could see transactions right there.
And they were very sensitive to the fact that they were using the word transaction. A transaction implies you get something.
They should have used a Sharpie.
Maybe that would have been better, yeah.
In that same memo, a company employee asks, "Why is this being written?" And there's another memo that says to keep it all confidential because people can get killed.
If you're in a situation where you're putting your employees at risk by even having operations there, and if the only thing you can do to protect your employees is to pay off a guerrilla group or a paramilitary death squad, then you probably shouldn't be doing business there.
When you peel back the layers, you see they knew what they were doing was wrong. From 1989 to about 1997, they made payments to leftist guerrillas in the region. In 1997, Chiquita started paying their rival, the AUC, who was becoming more powerful. In 2001, the AUC was listed as a terrorist organization by the U.S., which was widely reported in the news in the U.S. and Colombia. In 2003, one of Chiquita's own lawyers wrote several memos to company execs. Must stop payments. The company should not make the payment. Chiquita fessed up to the Department of Justice, who also told them to stop. But what did the company do? It continued making payments.
Those were some of their most profitable years ever. So just pulling out of Colombia would have been a huge financial loss for them.
In 2004, the company finally stopped paying the AUC. They sold off their subsidiary in Colombia and pleaded guilty to the Department of Justice for supporting terrorists. The fine they had to pay? $25 million. Or get this, about 3 days' worth of their annual revenue, and they had 5 years to pay that off. And what did the people whose relatives were murdered get? $25 million that Chiquita paid
Goes to the U.S. Treasury.
So none of that ever went to any of the families of these victims. That was considered by many a slap on the corporate wrist. And the kicker, not one Chiquita exec went to jail for the crime, even though they were in on it. This is, I have to say it, freaking bananas. How could the U.S. government wage a war on terror and a war on drugs, but then let a U.S. company that supports narco-trafficking killers off so easy? As I sat on the steps of the Capitol, I realized I don't even like bananas. And when I'm in the grocery store, they certainly don't seem as wholesome as they did before. But at least now we know everything about Chiquita's dealings with terrorists, right? Maybe not. The Securities and Exchange Commission has even more Chiquita documents from Colombia that the company is fighting to withhold from Michael here.
What they have are thousands more pages of Chiquita's own corporate records that relate to all kinds of potential illegal activities.
So they're trying to block the release of these documents.
Right, and if Chiquita's position is that the evidence should exonerate them, or that the evidence shows that they were victims, then why are they fighting so hard to protect this information from seeing the light of day?
What could be in those dusty files? Whatever it is, 9/11 victims continue to wait for a bill to pass in Congress. And Chiquita, in a proposed merger with an Irish banana company, is making plans to return to the same region in Colombia. I asked them what strategy they have in place to deal with paramilitaries this time. I never got an answer.